Erev Tov.
Okay, and good evening, everyone. In a few moments, we are going to hear the siren of Yom Hazikaron. I was thinking about Yom Hazikaron. This is my first Yom Hazikaron at Ohel Ari. And Ohel Ari on Yom Hazikaron, there is a double sense of remembrance because it is a community in memory, standing in memory. Our shul, our Beit Knesset, is in memory of Ari Weiss, Hashem Yikom Damo. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Rabbi and Suzie Weiss, who are with us now as well, and will light the Ner Zikaron, say a few words, and Tfilat Kel Malei Rachamim in a few minutes right after we hear the siren. But I was trying to think, what does it mean that we are a community of remembrance, of memory? And what does it mean that a community is in memory of someone? What does it mean? After all, a Beit Knesset is built in a memory of a person. Does that mean that any time we are in the building, we do see Ari's name on the building, but is that all that it means? And I was thinking it means much more than that. It has to do with the law of energy conversion. And that is that what brought about our Beit Knesset, what brought about our shul is, among a few other things, but what was a driving force was the Weiss's, Rabbi and Mrs. Weiss's energy and commitment and dedication to creating our community, to creating the shul, to building the shul, and having it done. And where did that energy come from? And I believe, although I didn't know Ari myself, I believe it came from Ari. People during their life, we all have a certain amount of energy, and that energy depends on our sense of bchira. We can choose to, we are born with a potential of energy, and we could take out that energy and do a lot with it. And when we go away, that energy doesn't go away. Those who remember us get that energy and can still do things with our energy. And I think that the Weiss's, Rabbi and Mrs. Weiss, took the energy of Ari and with that energy built this building, built this community. So we are living through Ari in that sense. So again, I thank you for being with us, and now we will stand for the Sfirah.
Nir Hashem nishmat Adam, says Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei. The soul of a human being is a fire unto God. Human life is fragile, like a flame. It dances, it flickers, it is suspended somewhere between life and death. But the neshama, like a fire, is always rising towards Hashem, always moving upwards. It gives us light to lead us. It gives us heat to warm us. It gives us energy to propel us higher and higher. The neshamot of our kadoshim rise to the highest place in Shamayim. And as we gaze into that flame, we ask Hashem to guard those neshamot as they guarded us, to honor them as they honored us, to bring us into the Geula Shlema, where all the neshamot will be reunited. Bimhera v'yameinu.
Amen.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Al Kanfei Hashchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim, Tehorim V'giborim, Kizor Harakia Mazhirim, Lenishmat HaKadoshim, Shenilchamu B'chol Marchot Yisroel, B'machtet U'v'tzvagan Al Yisroel, V'shenaflu, B'milchamtam U'masru Nafsham Al Kedushat Hashem Ha'am V'haaretz, Ba'avur Sha'anu Mitpalalim Li'ilui Nishmotehem, Lachein Balarachamim, Yastirein Beseter, Kinafav La'olamim, Bitzror Chayim Et Nishmotehem, Adonai Hu Nachalatam, Gan Eden Menuchatam, Yanuchu B'Shalom Al Mishkavotam, V'Tamod L'Chol Yisrael Zechutam, Yamdu legoralam leketz hayamin v'nomar amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much again for being with us, on this night. And I know that this Yom Hazikaron is not like any other Yom Hazikaron. And Suzie, I read your beautiful article, and thank you very much for sharing it with me, but thank you for sharing it with everyone. It is so nice when people that went through such an experience of loss and have done it for the sake of all of us are willing to also share that experience with us, not only the loss, but the experience of the loss. It makes us feel more a part of it, although I know the burden is yours, the memories are yours, but allowing us to have a glimpse and to share with you gives us a sense of meaning and partnership, which is very gracious on your behalf to share with us. I want to say a few words about Yom HaZikaron. We just heard the siren, and I remember when I was a young child, I grew up in a community which was more of a Haredi community, and Yom HaZikaron there was some recognition. I wouldn't say there wasn't recognition of Yom HaZikaron. There was some recognition, but when it came to the smalim, to the symbols, then there was always a sense of antagonism to those symbols. And one of the senses of antagonism, one of the symbols was the siren. And I remember one day we were sitting in class and the siren went off, and our Rebbe told us that it's Chukot HaGoyim. It's not something Jewish, and it's an imitation of other people, and that's not what we should be doing. And in fact, what we should be doing is saying Tehillim on behalf in memory of those who gave their lives for the sake of Medinat Israel. I grew up since, and I had an opportunity since to hear Arav Meidan, Arav Binun speak about the siren of Yom Hazikaron. If you want, it is now also on YouTube. There is a YouTube of the two discussing Yom Hazikaron, a short clip, but these are ideas that I heard while I was in yeshiva already. In this clip, Rav Meidan asks Rav Binun what he thinks of that tzfira, of the siren. And Rav Binun says something amazing. He says, Yom HaZikaron, we know what Yom HaZikaron is. Yom HaZikaron is actually mentioned in the Torah, right? The day that we call today Rosh Hashanah, the Torah calls Yom HaZikaron. And on that day, we blow a shofar. Now, we do many other things, but the main aspect of the day is a shofar. We all know the halacha. If a person knows that there is a chazan with a minyan in one town, but with no shofar, and there is another town where there is no minyan and no chazan, but there is a shofar, the halacha is that he should go to the place with the shofar. The shofar represents the main aspect of Yom HaZikaron, of Rosh Hashanah. What is so special about the shofar? It is not a tefillah, it's not a cognitive speech. It is a sound, and that sound has meaning. What is the meaning of that sound? That makes it the main aspect of Yom HaZikaron, of Rosh Hashanah. But it's not only the main aspect of Rosh Hashanah, it's also a very important symbol of Yom HaZikaron, of our Yom HaZikaron. Because the tzofar, the siren, and it is not by mistake that a tzofar and a shofar are basically the same words. A shofar was basically, originally, what was blown to signal danger, to signal battle, to signal a war. To'ot milchama. We find it many times in the Tanakh that we're talking about To'ot milchama. That is what you sound when there is a milchama, and that is also our modern siren was exactly for that purpose. So the tzofar and the shofar have the same secular purpose and perhaps also the same religious purpose. A shofar that today we use only as a religious article in shul for Rosh Hashanah was actually something we blew in battle, and also like the modern siren. So on Rosh Hashanah, we say that v'nizkartem lifnei Hashem Elokechem. It comes to remind us of ourselves in front of Hashem. But here Rav Meidan comes into the discussion and says something amazing. He says, what is zikaron? What does it mean that Hashem remembers us? What does it mean? On other days, he doesn't remember us? Zikaron in Tanakh and in the words of Chazal mean judgment. That is how Chazal got to Rosh Hashanah, refers to Rosh Hashanah as Yom Adin. How did they get to Yom Adin? The Torah doesn't say anything about Din, unless we understand Zikaron as Din, as judgment. And we do, because in the Tfilot we say, Lehazkiram lechayim velamavet, uvriot bo yipakedu lehazkiram lechayim velamavet. What does it mean? To remember them to death or life. To remember, you don't remember to death or life, you judge to death or life. So lizko in that sense, in the sense of Rosh Hashanah, means judgment. And Rav Meidan now says something startling, something that I wouldn't dare say if I didn't hear it from him. And he said that on Yom Hazikaron we judge. And what do we judge? We judge our state. Yom Hazikaron is Rosh Hashanah leMedinat Israel. We ask, with this terrible korban, with all this loss, have we managed to build something that, I can't say what he said, but something in the long of lines that we could say that we are repaying the korban? Are we managing to repay the korban with the state, with the society that we built here in Medinat Israel? Now, I hear this many times, and I also had said this in the past, that it seems that Yom HaZikaron is not done right. It seems that Yom HaZikaron is simply another yahrzeit for those who had fallen. And poor families, not only they have one yahrzeit a year, we make them go through two. But I think that is not correct. It's not, I think we do celebrate it correctly. Telling stories about those who had given their lives, carrying out eulogies. Yes, it's not a day of avelut, but it is a day of remembering their greatness. And we remember their greatness by going back to the stories, by understanding the great loss. But I think that's only half the story, because we should understand, what we do is understand the loss, remember how great they were, and how great they would have been if they would still be with us. Understand the unbearable loss of life, but at the same time, try to react to it in a way of saying what is there for our obligation towards that loss? What does it mean to us today as far as building Medinat Israel from both physically, but spiritually as well? So I was thinking, what am I going to, what would be right to do on an evening like this? And obviously, I think talking about those who had passed away, those who had given their lives. And when I think of those who have given their lives, there are many of those that gave their lives that touched me, some of them were closer to my circles than others. Today, I want to discuss a specific person, a specific hero who gave his life for the sake of Medinat Israel, someone who is not necessarily the closest circle to me, but who touched me in a very special way, and who I think has a message to our lives right now, in the situation in which we find ourselves. It was 1999, was my fifth year in yeshiva. And I had the zchut to set the places in the yeshiva that year for Yamim Noa'im. Yamim Noa'im is a very special day in yeshiva. Everyone wants to be as close as possible, either to the Chazan, either who in the important tefillot was Rav Yehuda Amital, or to Rav Lichtenstein, to sit next to him and see him, how he was literally an angel during those days. So, but many donors and friends of the yeshiva come and participate in the tefillot as well. So you have to move around Talmidim in order to give an important place to these friends of the yeshiva. And of course, it's a task. And that year I had the zchut of going through the task, which was very, it was very special. But then at the beginning of Zman Cholef that year, when I came back, came to me Rav Yitzchak Levi, one of the rabbis in the yeshiva, and had given me a book, this book, Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, Ma'amarim Lidmuta Shel Medina Yehudit. But the interesting thing was, Lenishmat David Cohen, Hashem Yikom Damo. David Cohen, I had no idea who he was. Now, in yeshiva, in the library, those who were at the Gush, there are lots of stands with many, where for those who were at yeshiva and fell in battle or at other occasions, and it says something short about that person, and there are the books, his Sifrei Kodesh, are in a special bookshelf, and there are various stands with their picture, etc. And of course, there's one for David Cohen as well. But then I was reading the book and I got to know David Cohen, an incredible person. And I want to share some of the things that are said about him, and then some of the things that he had said, and then perhaps how it may touch us today. And this is what David Cohen David, or Didi as his friends referred to him, he was born in 1964 in Haifa. But when he was very young, at the age of 9 months, his parents went to Shlichut in South Africa, where he grew up for a few years. And they came back. Then they moved again, where his parents were in Shlichut in the United States. And when he was 5 years old, they came back to the land of Israel, and they were mevaker, they went to visit the Kotel. And when he came back, members of the family asked him, "Where were you?" So he said, "Well, I'm in my future working place, where the Beit HaMikdash will be." He was a Kohen. He said, "Soon the Mashiach will come, I'll work there." Now, at the age of 8, he went into a library in their neighborhood in the United States, and he came to the librarian with 10 heavy books, and she refused to allow him to take them all. She said an 8-year-old boy is not going to read them all. So he said, "You know what? When I bring them back, you'll test me for all these books. And if I don't know what they say, then next time you won't give me anything." And she agreed. He took all 10 books. After 2 days, he came back to the library with the 10 books and wanted 10 more. And she tested him for all the books, and he knew everything. So obviously we were talking about an Ilui, and in the Hespedim, the Rosh Yeshiva is talking about again and again about what an Ilui he was. But he wasn't only a genius, he was also great in sports. At the age of 6, he went swimming, and he was always, he came out first. When he was in Kita Chet in the Mechina, he was one of the founders. He went to Kiryat Herzog here in Kfar Saba, and then later to the Midrashia in Kfar Noam. When he was in Kita Chet in Kfar Saba, he established with his friends the Daf Yomi in the Mechina. So he was 13 years old. He already started learning Daf Yomi at that age. Now, usually, such geniuses don't necessarily have social skills, but he did. His friends constantly in their obituaries, they discuss his great social skills, but it's not only with his friends, but again and again, and I go through many who wrote about him, what comes up is how he was sensitive to those who didn't necessarily fit in. And here it says something beautiful. He used to go to such people who didn't necessarily have other friends. And he told them, you know, I don't have other friends. Do you mind socializing with me? And that's how he would hook up with them and make them feel that they're doing him a favor, that he's the odd one out and that he needs friends. That's who he was, a very special person. He was a great Baal Chesed. One of the anecdotes, his father writes that he promised to give an amud to the shul in which they davened, and on his last visit home, before he went back to the basis, he reminded his father of that promise, and he said, please don't forget to give the amud for the amud tefillah for the shul. Unfortunately, that amud was already given in his memory because it was a week before he was killed in battle in 1985 in Lebanon. Now, his father tells a story that he didn't know during his life, that he never actually discussed with his father. Only later he found out this story, and that was this. When he was in the Midrashiyah, and as you all know, those days in the Midrashiyah, many of the Ramim were Charedim, and they had a great influence on the Talmidim. He was very excited about Limud Torah, and he decided he's going to a Haredi yeshiva. He's not going to finish his tichon. He's going to a proper yeshiva when he was 16 and only study Torah. And he came to his father and he said, this is my hachlata. But it was very important for his father that he finishes his bagut. His father said, look, I don't want you to leave high school, but if after high school this is your decision, then fine, I'll be okay with it. I won't stand in your way. When he finished high school, he came to his father, and his father writes that his son was skeptical. He didn't believe his father, but his father stuck to his word. And when he finished, David came to his father. They lived in Haifa, and he said, I'm going to yeshiva. And his father said, fine, that's okay. How much is the tuition? I'll pay it. And he took out a check, and he wanted to write the name of the Haredi yeshiva that he was going to. And he said, no, I'm not going to that yeshiva. I decided I'm going to Yeshivat Har Etzion. His father was very happy with the fact that he went to that yeshiva. He went to that yeshiva, but his father didn't know anything more. Only later he heard from friends that at the end of the Tichon, David had quite a hitlaptut. He was on crossroads. He didn't know whether he's going to a Haredi yeshiva or he was accepted to Tochnit Talpiot in the army, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, a very prestigious Tochnit of Atuda, where very clever young children can go, or young boys and girls can go and study and be in the army. And he wasn't sure what he's going to do. And then he decided to do Hester, because he said, whatever I do, if I go only to yeshiva, if I go to yeshiva where I only study, or I go to Talpiot and I leave the study of Torah, I'm going to feel half a Jew. He felt both things are very important to him. Both studying Torah and also studying and being part of the big world. And he felt that that is what he's going to get through Hester, through Yeshivat Har Etzion. I want to share with you something that he wrote in Kita Yud. In Kita Yud, he wrote something which was actually a motto of both Rav Lichtenstein and Amital, but this he wrote before he got to yeshiva. And that is the title of this article that he wrote is Yoter Adam Nikar B'Gdolot Unikar B'Ktanot. And the gist of what he wrote was that a person is recognized. If you really want to know a person, have a look at the small things in their lives, because he said it's easy to fake it when it comes to big things. When it comes to big things, then people can act like a big shot. But the question is, how do they behave with the small things where people don't necessarily notice what they do, or where people behave on instinct? Because when they act on instinct with the small things, that is where the real self actually comes out. And he brings a few, he says, he brings the idea of Parashat Ekev, mitzvot she'adam dash ba'akivav, but he also writes that this is why all the small things are so important. Rav Amital, at his hesped for David Cohen, said the following things. And here I want to come back to what I said before, to remembering. And this is what Rav Amital writes. He didn't write. He said at the day that he was at his levaya. It obligates us, this is what Rav Amital says to the other boys in yeshiva, the death of David obligates us to a cheshbon nefesh, to do soul searching. Hem natnu et chayehem, they gave their lives, ve'aleinu lishol ma'aleinu latet. We must ask ourselves, what is it that we must give? B'sha'ah she'ele natnu et chayehem, at a moment when these, because David Cohen was killed together with his very good friend Dani Moshitz. They were both killed in battle. So Rav Amital is talking about both of them and said, at a moment when they gave their lives, aleinu lechapes ma anu yecholim latet, we must search what is it that we are able to give bechol makom, at any place. V'chovat hanetina mutelet al kol echad, and the obligation of giving is upon each and every one of us. And I think this comes back to what I said before that Rav Medan said. On Yom Hazikaron, it's Yom Hadin to Medinat Yisrael. It's Yom Hadin to us, towards Medinat Yisrael. We ask ourselves, Hem natnu et chayehem, they gave their lives. Aleinu lishol, we must ask, ma aleinu latet, what must we give? And this comes back to the very beginning, when I asked, what does it mean that a place is in memory of? Our shul, our Bet Knesset is in memory of Ari Weiss, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, Hashem Yikom Damo. What does that mean? It means that he gave, and what we must give. We give, we work, we continue, because we constantly ask ourselves what they give, what they gave, and what that obligates us to give. And when I think of David Cohen, what he gave, and who he was, who he would have been if he wouldn't have gone, a genius with a sensitivity to others, he would have grown and no doubt be one of the leaders of our society. It is our obligation to try and fill that void, a void that will never be filled, but a void that constantly has to be attempted to be filled. And that attempt in itself is in memory of Ari Weiss, in memory of David Cohen, in memory of the over 24,000 of those who gave their lives for our sake. And if I'm trying to take something particular from something that David Cohen had written, he had written about the small things that are important. And I think that on a day like this, in the situation where we are, the small things are important. We mentioned before that Yom Hazikaron is Rosh Hashanah. This is something that I heard from my father. My father, in regard to Rosh Hashanah, told me the Gemara says something very interesting. The Gemara says that why is it that we are not allowed to blow a horn of a cow? The Mishnah says that all the horns are kosher for a shofar, but only a horn of a cow is not kosher. The Mishnah gives one reason. The Gemara doesn't take that reason on its own and brings another reason. And that is, en katego na'asa sanego, because of the golden calf. The golden calf was done when we blow a horn of a cow, it reminds Hashem of the golden calf, and by that we remind Hashem of our sins. That's not a good idea, so we don't blow a cow's horn as a shofar. But says the says, where do we learn this from? We learn this of a statement of Rabbi Eliezer that the Kohen Gadol does not wear his garments that have gold when he goes into Kodesh HaKodashim, into Holy of Holies. He doesn't go with gold. Why? En katego na'asa sanego, because the golden calf was from gold. Says the Gemara, but just a minute. But outside of the Holy of Holies, he does wear the gold. So how could he wear the gold outside? There also, ein katego na'asa sanego, he's reminding Hashem of our sin. Says the Gemara, no, only in the Holy of Holies we don't want to remind Hashem. But outside of the Holy of Holies, it's okay. Says the Gemara, but if so, we blow the shofar outside, then that should be fine. So says the Gemara, no, the shofar is for zikaron. And since it is for remembrance, since it's for zikaron, kelifnim dami. So my father asked me once, what does that mean? Why is, since it is for remembrance, it's as if it's inside? What do the two have to do with each other? So my father told me that he thinks that what is remembrance? Remembrance is going inside. It's going inside to the very inner chamber of our soul. As Rav Medan says, it's Yom Hadin. It's soul searching. That is what Zikaron means. And soul searching is going to our inner chambers, into the Holy of Holies of our heart. So blowing the shofar, which is exactly that, it symbolizes us going into our inner chambers of our heart. That is like the Kohen Gadol going into the Holy of Holies. That we mustn't do with a cow's horn. Similarly to the Kohen Gadol not going in with gold into the Kodesh HaKodashim. And on this day, when we remember those who passed away, those who gave their lives, and on Yom HaZikaron, like we are sitting today, inside, kelifnim dami. So usually on Yom HaZikaron, we're outside, but this Yom HaZikaron is a special Yom HaZikaron. It's a Yom HaZikaron where we're not only figuratively bifnim in our, I'm doing soul searching, but we're sitting in our homes, literally bifnim. So we are literally and figuratively inside, thinking about what David Cohen, what Ari Weiss, what many others had given us. And taking one thing that he wrote that I think gives us is the small things. We talk a lot about how life is important. And we talk a lot about how our religion is the religion of life and how other religions, and when we talk about our enemies sometimes and their religion, we speak sometimes about how other religions of other people disregards life. But our religion, we're so proud of our religion as being pro-life. It's easy to speak that way when we speak of the big picture, But the question is, how do we behave when it comes to the smaller details? As David Cohen, Hashem Yikom Damo, writes, when it comes to the smaller details, that is when you could truly see the character of a person. And I think that is true also to our religious reflection. When we speak of high ideals, that's not how we should measure ourselves, because high ideals we could always speak of. The question is, how does it measure up with the small things? Are we makpid on all of those small things on days like this? Do we go out only when we need to? Do we put on a masecha only when we need to? Are we very careful with small things that have to do with saving lives? And I think when it comes to this question, and when we are today as Medinat Israel, being it Yom Hadin of Medinat Israel, on a year like this, we are also facing an unusual time in the times of in the history of Medinat Israel. We went through a first phase of this terrible corona disease, this plague. We managed to go through it. But now we are going into a new phase in dealing with this disease. And this puts us on Yom Hadin, like on Rosh Hashanah, when we stand before Hashem and we are literally saying, Mila Chaim u'Mila Mavet u'Medinot bo yipakedu, then on Yom Hazikaron now, Medinot bo yipakedu, and it's up to us, how are we going to behave? So when we remember those who gave their lives for the sake of Medinat Israel, we should think how we are going to behave, and how are we going to behave socially and personally, and put their korban in our minds when we do so. Hashem yikom דם כל הנופלים ונקם ישיב לצוואיו וכיפר אדמתו עמו. Hashem yikom, and we will remember, and ad tchiyat hamitim. Again, thank you very, very much, Rabbi and Mrs. Weiss, for being with us tonight. I know you have many other Zoom things that you have and other engagements that you have, and so it's really our honor that you were with us at this special day for you and for us. Toda rabah.
Thank you, and Bistorot Tovot to everyone. Geula Shlema. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Wait, don't go.